So we are all kind of political beings because we all social beings, and so we're all affected by some of the same things in our society, such as government, such as the weather and the environment and so on. So some of the things that I was speaking about when I was speaking about the year ahead for us all certainly apply to all of us at some level, even in our personal lives. But there is, of course, a more personal way to do astrology. Real astrology is, of course, when we use your own date of birth, time of birth, place of birth to get your own personal horoscope that is pretty much unique to you. And that can give quite an accurate view of yourself, your life, and your future. But most of us are familiar with the monthly columns that you see on this show. You see daily ones in the newspaper and monthly ones in magazines, weekly ones sometimes online. And of course, those are not very personal, but they are indeed based on astrological ways of analyzing things which affect us all. It's the age-old knowledge of cycles that we simplify by using sign categories that in fact conceal an awful lot of mathematics. So sometimes it looks very simple and weird, and how could all of that apply to 1/12 of the people in the world? And of course, it doesn't really. The language has been translated into a language that we can all access. Nevertheless, on this show, you'll see me categorize us as groups of 3 types of signs and groups of the 12 signs themselves. And they are really groups of the different types of cycles that we all respond to differently. Of course, as the months go by, we also have the month ahead show, and you can check in every month to see more closely of how your particular group's cycles are looking at that time. And of course, anytime you visit an astrologer, they'll be able to tell you about your own personal cycles. The cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. For you cardinal signs, this is quite a challenging year. We've reached the point where this is the time to kind of let go. From the early part of this year, there's a lot of pressure to change, both in your working life and in your personal life. And it's kind of like things are coming to a crunch by the time we reach late February, early March. Once you get past that stage and we get going into the second part of the year and the middle section of the year as well, things are looking much more exciting. There are new things going on, new opportunities coming up. There are some pressures that begin to mount as you reach the middle part and the beginning of the third quarter, but this is really time to act, because making changes in the second part of the year, in the middle of the year, is going to be a lot easier than it is during the first half of the year, when you kind of know what it's all about and you've got to get into action. So it's a little bit, once you get the ball rolling, everything's working in the second half of the year. There could also be a lot of movement, even travel for some people. It's a large group of people to say that too, but there are a lot of changes, unexpected developments in the second half and last quarter of the year for members of cardinal signs, and certainly some of that will mean new places for you as well. Don't be afraid to try new things. This is one of the themes for you all this year, and some of you are going to have to try new things because changes are demanded. By the end of the year, it's kind of, you are flying by the seat of your pants. So go for it, wing it, jump right in. It's really going to work for you if you're willing to move on from everything that's now finally behind you, hopefully having been resolved this year. For Aries, you really are going to be hitting the ground running. Although it can be a little frustrating at first and it's going to be difficult getting help and getting things really working for you, the first quarter of the year is going to develop rather rapidly. So make sure you've got your plans in place and that things are happening, because things are really developing even through that frustration. The area in question is your professional life. It's all about work this year. So maybe you need to make your loved ones and family understand that I'm going to be putting my head down and really going for it. It doesn't mean 24/7 24/7. There's lots of time for the good things too, because your charts show that you will be drawing on your own natural talents, things that come easily to you, and even have a bit of luck on your side. And when things work smoothly like that, everything else seems to smoothly go along. So although there's lots of hard work to be done, there will be lots of opportunity to focus on your personal life. So get that into some kind of balance. It might be a little shaky around February and March, but once you've passed that, and once you get to the period around your birthday, things are improving a lot, and you can really look to a more interesting and exciting year. The only thing you really need to be aware of is when dealing with other people with money or power in particular, you can't rely on anyone at this time, and maybe you even need to be a little bit wary. So do your own thing. It's time for your own goals to go forward. Actually, it's going to be quite easy for that. Cancerians also have a lot of promise for growth and gains this year. And you'll find that things that you've been working on in the past, in 2016, perhaps even earlier than that, finally are starting to show signs of making progress. Isn't that a good thing? Finally, things are really working for you. You don't need to rush things, and you're going to be tempted to rush things. You need to chill a bit for the first half of the year. It might take all the way until after your birthday before things are really happening the way that you want them to happen, or at the pace that you want them to happen. In fact, in the first half of the year, you can focus on personal life, because the chart shows that there are going to be gains made through your relationships, gains made through all kinds of partnerships, maybe even gains in your personal partnerships. You do need to know that with some kind of relationships, there's a lot of responsibility this year. And for many Cancerians, it's either in your relationship life or towards other partners and loved ones of some kind. But part of the challenge this year is balancing your own needs versus the needs of all of these people that you hold responsibility to. So be careful, don't give too much of yourself, of your resources. Try and develop a more kind of selfish attitude, and you can look forward to lots of fun times this year, Cancerians. Librans have been having quite a nice time. I mean, 2016 looked like it could have been quite groovy after you got past the first challenges in the first part of the year, and that good time that you've been having is kind of set to continue. And so you could also sit back and do nothing about it, or you could put it to positive use. And that's really what this year is all about. You've got to focus on creating clear goals. Ideally set them to mature in the last part of the year after your birthday, and then the mission for this year is that you're going to use your skills and your talents and the things that come naturally to you to get to those goals. The other challenges are about acting confidently, stepping up to the plate, making it happen yourself, because that is how it's going to happen. The challenging thing is that you're only going to start seeing the effects and results of what you're doing in the second half of the year. So don't lose heart and think this isn't really working or this isn't really happening, because it really is. And if you just carry on with that positive, focused approach, you'll see that by the time you reach your birthday, a lot of those things will have been done. There are benefits from some other people. Lovers and one-to-one partners are the ones who bring the gains in this year. Friends, not so much. So keep the focus, keep on people and things that you love as the source of input, and it carries on being an easy one for you. Capricorns, unfortunately, not so easy. You have been having it rough for quite a time, and in some ways that's set to continue for a little while. There are slow changes happening, and that's what you must understand, not to lose hope. The beginning part of this year is exceptionally tough, but that is not going to persist. By the third and fourth month of the year, as you enter into the second quarter of the year, things are beginning to ease out, and you'll see that you're able to start sorting out some of the challenges that have been pushing since late 2016. A lot of the changes that are happening, even through the difficulty, are working in your favor, and you can probably see that. So go with that. But during this year, in facing the challenges, you've kind of got to do what you know that you're supposed to do. The changes that you've been avoiding in your personal life and your professional life, this is the time you're going to have to deal with them. There is some melancholy or sadness or a sense of loss associated with some of that, but for the most part, you're beginning to prepare for a whole new cycle of life that begins next year. So this is the time to start figuring out how you're going to do that. That's your goal for yourself that will keep you on your track. The fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And you are the quiet signs again this year. Last year, Taurians were kind of having it a little bit behind the scenes. This year, it's all of you. In fact, in the beginning of the year, it's going to be quite frustrating. Things might be difficult to get going. You might feel frustrated or blocked. You might feel that everything's going too slowly. But hang in there. Things are going to go smoothly after the time of your birthday, and especially as the year picks up. Don't let that frustration and sense of obstacle hold you back, especially since it's very much a year for being behind the scenes, operating behind the scenes, doing your own things, not being up front there in some kind of way. And that itself will be a challenge, because there are signs that if you don't speak up and step up, nothing's going to happen. So this year, some of the challenges: laziness, apathy. Time is going to fly for you fixed signs this year, and you don't want to reach late in the year and realize I didn't really get very much done at all. So don't wait for pressure to force you to act. You're going to have to be more motivated, more self-driven in some way. Don't forget though, behind the scenes means you don't have to make a grand spectacle of it, but it's got to be you putting your head down and you're getting on with it, and when you need to, you're going to step forward. The second half of the year, much more action-packed. You can pursue goals more easily. You can get results more easily. It's all going to work much more successfully for you during that time. So go for it during the second half of the year when you finally need to step up and get things going. But as long as you're keeping your nose to the grindstone and you don't need to really be out there, you're making progress, you'll turn around at the end of the year and realize progress was made. The first of the fixed signs, Taurus, this is all about going it alone and getting on with it yourself this year. Remember, as a fixed sign, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get yourself going this year. And the first quarter, maybe even first third of the year, is a little bit slow and frustrating. And that could be part of the challenge. In your case, the main challenge is don't lose your cool. There are signs of frustration and even of being a little bit rash. So hang in there. Just remember patience and persistence. Frustration and rash behaviors because other people are getting in your way. Don't concentrate on other people. This is the year for doing your own thing. It's good for creative work. It's good for behind the scenes work during this year. And by the time you're in the middle of the year, you should be well on your way on your own missions. That middle part of the year brings a lot of changes, and that'll introduce all sorts of new and interesting people and things into your life during the second half of the year that will get you opportunities to pursue new things and changes that you want. And amazingly, by the time you reach the end of the year, it looks like, despite being a bit behind the scenes and so on, you've got all the checks on the checklist ticked. So making it happen is really what it's all about. Even though it doesn't look like anything is getting done, it's getting done. Leos might need to pursue some personal goals and get on with all of that. There's another aspect to this challenge, which is kind of one of identity. And it looks like these are the cycles of locating your identity in the world. And for many of you in Leo, this is the time to find yourself and find your place in the world again. Maybe even find what your world is. For some Leo, that means this is a time you're making a lot of changes. And for other Leos, this is a time when you really need to make a lot of changes. But for the most part, it's really about reestablishing who am I, what is my world, and what do I really want out of life, which is quite a big thing for 2017. It does mean you might have to break away from the past, breaking away from someone who's important, often a mentor or a leader or an influencer. It's not a personal thing. But it's kind of like it's now time for you to move past that and get forward in the front of your own queue, not be following someone all the time. Hey, you're a Leo. I mean, you're supposed to be the king, right at the front out there. So this is a year to set your sights on the highest professional goals. going for it all the way and relying on yourself. And it looks like, it's kind of like whether or not there's any input from anyone else, you just mission on your things, move out of the slump that late 2016 and early 2017 has characterized. And you'll find by the end of the year, you are on top of your goals. You got there. For Scorpios, this could be one of those years where there's a lot of effort with kind of little to show for it. But don't lose heart. The results will eventually show, as you've been hearing for the other fixed signs. So especially after your birthday, which takes you to then the last quarter of the year to see those results. The challenge is that it's really going to be hard to get yourself going. And there's a warning not to rely on pressure and stress as a way of getting yourself going. So you can actually rely on new people in your life. There's signs that you're making new friends, and then these new people can be very inspiring. So you need to keep your mind open and your eyes open. It's not a time to be clinging to your firm ways of being and of doing things that are so characteristic of your sign, especially in the late part of the year, really allowing others to be some input. Hey, of course, some of them are going to be pressing your buttons, and there's clear signs that you are going to be irritated by other people, but that's especially in the first part of the year. So working through that and dealing with them as this first part of the year goes by, you've got to realize and keep yourself attuned to the fact of, this is because I'm making space for new people in my life who I will take inspiration from at the end of the year. And with a bit of inspiration, finally by next year, you're out of the mode of little results from all the work, and it's all coming in. End of the year. Aquarians will have plenty of space for the new this year. There are opportunities to venture into new territories, there are new people, there are new directions, and there's opportunities to learn new things. How much better can it be? Well, you do need to get yourself focused into one thing, and that can often be a challenge for your sign. So over the next month, until and around your birthday and just after your birthday, you can set yourself up for the whole year in these first 3 months of this year. So that's what that is all about. It's just make sure there's a plan, there's a focus, and you know what you want to focus on. And that's going to all then unfold as the rest of the year takes place. It's not so much even about goals. It's about this newness. Focusing can be a little bit more challenging this year, because at first it's going to be very difficult to know which direction to head into. So allow others to be some of that input for you, then it's going to work. There could be still quite a lot of confusion around money and resources, and you've got to rein in and be very careful about the responsibilities that are demanded of you. It looks like there's still a lot of responsibilities to family, to things from the past. You're going to have to still go with that in some kind of a way. So be wise with your money, I think, is really what that's about. But for the most part, new is going to bring great new things into your life. So that's what you need to concentrate on. Go for the new. The mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And you mutable signs might also find things going a little bit more slowly than you like at first. But trust me, they really are going. I mean, if there is a group of signs that has to go for it this year and just grab at everything that comes your way, that is your group of signs. No time for sitting back. No time for all the easy adaptation that you do. I mean, you are the most adaptable of all the signs. You manage, as a group, you manage to really go with the flow, to adjust to a new situation so that not too much pressure lands up on your shoulders. And while that can work a lot of the time, it sometimes means you're slipping and sliding through it and not really getting the full focus. And focus is a word for you. You've really got to stick to things, focus on fewer things, and go make progress in those areas. Areas where there have been difficult obstacles in the past and the last year are the ones that you're really going to see making a difference during the course of this year. So that's also quite important, that you complete things that have been difficult and have been difficult in difficult years, have fallen by the wayside. Now's the time to kind of pick them up again and get marching again and really making it happen in some way. Things will really happen if you're willing to make changes and you're willing to accept help and input from friends and others around you. If you're willing to do that, and we'll see, especially Pisces later on, this is really going to happen this year. Geminis, of all the go for it signs this year, yours is the most go for it of all. This is really the opportunity to make something happen. You need to be focusing on what your goals are, where you stand, and coming from a clear perspective. Your challenge is to be focused, to be prepared, to be convincing. So being convincing and being persuasive, you're going to have to speak up, and that's going to make it work for you. Results are not always going to be exactly what you expected. The unexpected is going to unsettle some of your plans, but as I said early on, you are adaptable and versatile, and it can act in your favor. So be willing to make changes at the last second, to let things go for it at the last second. Like that, things are really going to work for you. The middle part of the year is a little bit hectic, and you might lose focus during that time. So make a plan around the time of your birthday to recommit yourself to focus, to re-establish, do a double check. Check back over the first 6 months of the year. Check, have I focused on that identity? Have I gone forward with that aspect of my life and that aspect of my goals? Taking risks, taking chances, all of that's going to really work to make it happen. So as long as you don't lose focus, you're having a great time in 2017. Virgos, well, you might feel like taking a break, but there are no years where we get to take a break. And that's probably because there's old stuff, there's family stuff that is demanding, but that really needs to get sorted. It's not only family stuff, it's anything that has been around a long time, that's needed sorting a long time. And I think you know what I mean. So for each of you, whatever exactly it is, that's what you need to be starting with from the beginning of the year, with where your focus is, getting that completed and getting it done. Because like the other mutable signs, especially like your cousins, the Geminis, you're going to need to be taking a position and taking a clearer sense of identity, focusing on something in that kind of a way. There's a great opportunity to make great progress, even if that progress is actually only measurable by the time you get to the end of the year or even next year. And that's because it's kind of your investment year. Anything that takes a while to really show its worth, in some ways, everything in your life is working that way. Keep that up your sleeve, as that's the secret knowledge I have. It's going to take a while to make it work, but I know that it is working. And like that, you don't have to panic, you don't have to worry, you don't have to get anxious. Panic, worry, anxious, all Virgo words. And like that, you'll find yourself much more able to benefit in the last quarter of the year from the dramatic growth that's going to happen at that time. Sagittarians have a challenging year ahead, and that's especially in your personal life. There's a lot of change demanded there. That's from your personal relationships, perhaps your family relationships, but there is a lot on your plate, and that difficult stuff that needs to be dealt with. So it's time to get serious and handle that stuff. Your chart shows that it has had too low priority for too long a time. The person has been quite out of your chart until late last year. So now the stuff that started coming up either late last year or earlier this year demands attention. And the first part of this year, especially the first quarter, is when you need to sort out a lot of that. There's a lot of demand coming from other people, and there's a lot that you need to give in terms of your partnerships and relationships. And this is the time to be sorting that out. It's kind of like a make or break period in relationships. It's either time to call it quits or move forward to the next level. Many Sagittarians, that's what it's all about. For those of you not in relationships, this could be very much the time for a new relationship to begin in your life, 2017, because there's lots of new stuff that you love on the plate at this time, with new things for 2017 by the end of the year. And finally, Pisces are having a relatively easy time this year. You can get ahead with the help of friends and loved ones, all of whom are working well with you and making it easier for you. Opportunities are coming quite easily, doors are opening up. All of this sounds fantastic, and with Pisces can sometimes be too much of a good thing. Be careful of getting lazy, getting complacent, and avoiding challenges that come your way, because this could also be one of those years where It could have been great. There were lots of opportunities and lots of things opened up, but you never really pushed yourself enough to make it happen. This is the year. Push yourself enough to make it happen. You really need to do that. The beginning of the year is rather challenging and confusing, and this can set you off on the wrong track if you lose heart or if you shy away from what's difficult at first. Don't shy away in the first third of the year, and that's until also after your birthday especially. Just go for it, persist at first. And then after your birthday, you'll find that your luck has changed and new things come up, new opportunities come up. That is the time to be taking risks, taking chances, middle period of the year. Everyone comes along for the ride. You can make it happen, and you might be the one who helps make everyone in your circle have a better year too. Don't forget to tune in every month for your month ahead. Next week for our first interview of the year, it's going to be a really amazing one you're not going to want to miss. So like the show on the Facebook page, and then you'll know what next week's show is going to be before anyone else does. See you on Facebook, see you on YouTube, see you on Cape Town TV next week, same time. Till then.